Hello and welcome to Addicted to Lacrosse. This is Season 4, Episode 3. Today is January 16th, 2017, and my name is Graham Perro. With me today is Melissa Daphne. Tyler is not available to join us tonight, unfortunately, so it's just the two of us today. We got a bunch to talk about today, 4 interesting games over the weekend. Big name players are dropping like flies. There's injuries all over the place. And what else is there? We've got some notes from Tyler, so he had some interesting things to say about some of the games. So let's get right to that right away. I guess there were 4 games, as I said. We'll just summarize what went on. The Toronto Rock are 2-0, considering they missed playoffs last year and then lost a whole bunch of people to retirement and injury. They're doing surprisingly well. They beat the Saskatchewan Rush 13-11. Georgia Swarm are also rocking this season pretty well, averaging 18 goals a game after a couple. They beat the Buffalo Bandits for 18-14. Colorado won a overtime squeaker against New England. I believe the Mammoth were leading like 8-3 at some point, and the Black Wolves clawed back and tied it with 10 or 15 seconds left. And I'm not sure it was that close, but it was within the last minute anyway. And then Colorado scored in overtime. And then the Calgary Roughnecks brought the Vancouver Stealth back down to earth after their 2-0 start with a 14-10 win in Vancouver. And I got to see most of these games. I sort of swapped back and forth between Colorado and Vancouver, sometimes because the feeds were dying, and other times just because one went to commercial, so I went to the other one. So I saw bits of both of those, and I only saw the first quarter of the Buffalo game, and of course I was at the Rock game on Saturday night too. So I've been talking for a little while. So Melissa, why don't you get started? What was awesome and what was not awesome?
What was awesome to begin with was the Swarm offense. They rocked it. They just completely dominated Buffalo, and that fourth quarter was kind of a surprise because the first 3 quarters the Swarm were just all over the place. It seemed like they decided they wanted to score, and they did. It was just, they were just putting them away, and it was pretty amazing. So, yeah, my first awesome was definitely the Swarm offense.
All right, I'll start with a different offense. I'm going to go with the Rock, believe it or not. As I said, the fact that they lost Sanderson and Doyle to retirement, the fact that Hellier was out for the season, and now they've lost Brett Hickey. And I don't know how long he'll be out for, but he apparently injured himself in practice at some point this week and was put on the IR on Friday or Saturday. And I don't know enough about the list to know exactly how long that means he's out for. Is he definitely out for 2 weeks or 1 week or something? But long enough that they put him on the IR so they could call up somebody else. And yet they managed to beat the Rush. So something's going right in the Rock dressing room. The offense itself was good, wasn't outstanding, but the transition has been amazing. So, good transition obviously leads to some goals, and good transition is going to lead to good offense. So, so my first awesome of the week is the Rock transition specifically, but offense in general. What do you got next, Melissa?
So, kind of following up on the Swarm comment, the Thompson brothers. Oh my God, this is when they brought the Geiches in, the Mammoth were really hoping to happen, and it didn't. And then you see the Thompson brothers, and it's like, oh, that's the benefit of having the brothers on the same team. That was really good. I mean, Miles had 2 goals, 1 assist. Lyle had 2 goals and 6 assists. And Jerome had 2 goals, 4 assists. I mean, that's awesome. 6 goals between the 3 of them and a whole lot of assists. So they were one of them was pretty much involved in most of the plays. So, yeah, the Thompson brothers are just awesome. And it kind of makes me jealous because this is obviously what the Mammoths were hoping for when we had all the Geiches, and it just didn't work like this. So definitely Thompson brothers for me.
The Geiches were a little different in that they weren't all offensive players, though, weren't they?
I think at one time Well, yeah, Alex was more defense, but even still, they didn't seem to have that chemistry that we've seen with other brothers when they play together. In some ways, it was really kind of striking that, oh, really? They're related? Because they didn't have that natural chemistry that you expected. I don't know if maybe it'd been so long since they'd actually played together, and maybe it's been more recent for the Thompsons. I don't know. But it never seemed like they quite had that chemistry that everybody was expecting them to have. So
Interesting. I know when they were pushing the four Thompson brothers in one game thing last week, I guess it was. Somebody, I think it was Logan Schuss, tweeted that he at one point played on the same team as all four Geitch brothers. Clearly, that wasn't in the NLL because I know one of them never played in the NLL. So I'm not exactly sure how they defined the Guinness record that they recorded, because clearly four brothers have played in the same game before and the same lacrosse game before. So I think maybe they said it as the first time that's ever happened in a pro lacrosse game. But I mean, the more narrow your scope, the less meaningful the kind of record is. I mean, this is the only podcast that I know about where there's a girl named Melissa and a guy named Graham. So let's call the Guinness people and make sure that they know about it.
yeah, that makes it automatically awesome. But yeah, I think it is the first professional game, and I don't even know if it was necessarily a lacrosse game. I think it was the first professional game. But
It was the first professional sports game. That would certainly be meaningful. I thought it was specific to lacrosse.
Yeah, I'm honestly not sure one way or the other. I'd have to pull the article back up because I remember reading it and I don't remember. But I don't know. Maybe the Geitches are closer or farther in age than the Thompsons. I don't know. It could be those little things that, yeah, they played when they were young a lot, and as they just grew in their professional careers, they didn't. I don't know. Because, yeah, there's instances where, yeah, they definitely played together when they were young, but they just didn't have that same chemistry. I mean, I've seen players that, are new to the team have better chemistry than these guys did at some point, which was disappointing because everybody was talking about how awesome it was going to be to have the Geitches, and the fact they were siblings was just going to make it just a smooth transition, and they were just going to rock it because of that, and they
Not
just
so much.
but didn't quite. So there was something missing there.
All right. Now, interestingly enough, I also had Georgia's offense on my awesome list. Just the fact that they're firing on all cylinders, and they don't have Johnny Paulus, who I don't know. I know he's injured, and as far as I know, he'll be back at some point this season. He's not gone for long term, but he's not playing yet. And Jesse King is out for the season as well. So, like you said, adding Jerome Thompson into to the mix with his brothers, and adding Jordan Hall into the mix as well. Clearly, these were good moves, and yeah, so another vote for Georgia offense being awesome. And while I'm at it, Tyler's first awesome was also Georgia's offense. So there's a consensus between the three of us.
That's because it was pretty awesome. I mean, look how many different players scored. That was just a team that was not going to be stopped. So, pretty awesome.
All right. What was my next one? Oh, you may not agree with this one, but the fact that New England came back to tie the game with less than a minute left, for New England, that was certainly awesome. And for me, as somebody who's watching the game, and I mean, I didn't have a rooting interest in it in terms of I want Colorado to win or I want New England to win. So the fact that they came back and tied it with under a minute left was pretty awesome. Now, New England didn't think it was so awesome the fact that they lost, but that part of the game was certainly awesome. And considering I write a column about clutch goals and game tying goals and game winning goals for the Moneyballers, that was certainly awesome.
Yeah, I kind of had something similar, but in the not awesome column.
I thought you might. Now, Tyler also had another thing in his awesome list, and all it says is Curtis Hodgson's dad.
Yeah, I really wish he was here to explain this one to us.
I don't know if they said something during the broadcast that I missed about Curtis Hodgson's dad being there, or if Tyler met him because Tyler was at that game. And I know he was looking for Dan McRae after the game as their buddies. So maybe he met Curtis Hodgson's dad and he was awesome. I don't know. So I don't know the story there, but little shout out to Curtis Hodgson's dad there from Tyler.
Yeah, I think we'll have to put a note on next week's show and be like, okay, Tyler, you must explain last week's awesome. We want to hear the story.
All right. That was all that was all I had for the awesome category. Did you have a few more?
I did have a few. Kind of on the same line of New England, I said the Bandits being so fired up in the fourth. My husband and I, if I wouldn't have known the score, because I did watch it after the game was post, that I would have probably turned the game off in the third quarter and went, man, this game is over. And all of a sudden, the Storm decided they were going to kind of blow out the clock instead and not really keep pushing it. And the Bandits kind of came alive. So, yeah, the Bandit offense in the fourth quarter was kind of an awesome because they rallied and they did a pretty good job considering how dominating the Storm were the first three quarters. It was kind
Georgia
of
was ahead by 9 at one point, and the Bandits cut it down to 3 with about 3.5 minutes left, which is, I mean, even just getting that close is pretty awesome. So the fact that they made a game of it is pretty impressive.
Yeah, especially since it didn't look like they were going to have a chance to come back in, especially the way they were playing. So something clicked. It'll be interesting to see if this carries over to next week or if we see more of what we have been seeing. But yeah, so that was my next awesome. Am I the only one still with awesomes?
Yeah, we may as well finish off your awesomes, and then we'll move on to the not awesomes.
So another awesome I had was the fact that in the second quarter, the Mammoth scored 4 goals in under 2 minutes. And then Kyle Buchanan's air gate in the third quarter from the same game was really awesome. And holy cow, Caleb Crawford has a vertical. It was just the fact that when he scored the goal, he just went vertical the way most of players jump across the crease. He just went straight up and scored. So that was kind of fun. And of course, Pat Sanders' game-tying goal in overtime, or to send the game to overtime, because that was just really clutch and it was just a beautiful goal. And then of course, McLaughlin's overtime winning goal. That's awesome because, hey, now it's fun. And that's all my awesomes.
All right.
You want to start off with the not awesomes?
Sure, I had a couple of these, and actually I had kind of not so much a news story that I was going to talk about off the top, but I kind of skipped it and went straight to the games. So this I guess you could put in the not awesome category. As I said to start the show, the big names are just dropping like flies. So we had John Grant missed the game this weekend and was put on the injured reserve. Brett Hickey, as I mentioned, was also put on injured reserve after hurting himself in practice. During the Bandits game, Anthony Cosmo left after about 5 or 10 minutes. He was almost carried off. I think he ended up hobbling off the floor on his own. And I heard later that he's okay and he'll be back next week. So that wasn't a devastating injury. But not long after he left, Dane Smith hobbled off the field as well, and he never returned, and he will apparently miss this week's game as well. So with Grant, Hickey, Cosmo, and Smith all leaving games or missing games due to injury, that's certainly not awesome.
Yeah, I definitely had that on my list of not awesome.
Tyler had on his not awesome list T-Rich's first quarter, and I didn't see most of the first quarter. Let's take a look. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 6 Calgary goals. Couple on the power play, 1 shorthanded. Yeah, that doesn't look too awesome. Curtis Dixon with 2 goals in the first quarter. That's odd. Usually he steps up in the fourth. Well, he got 1 in the fourth, which is his 6th. But yeah, as I said, I didn't see much of the first quarter of that, so I will take Tyler's word for it. But the numbers certainly bear out. T-Rich's first quarter was not awesome. What's your first on the not awesome list there, Melissa?
So my first not awesome kind of relates to that. the fact that this Stealth Calgary game was nowhere to be found when I went to watch games yesterday. And apparently it got posted at some point today, because when I was pulling everything up, that was one of the tabs that I pulled up out of habit. And oh, there's the game split in two. So I don't know what was going on. It wasn't there last night. So that was kind of my not awesome. I wanted to watch the game, of course, especially since they're division rivals, and couldn't. So
Were the other games available, or was it just that one that was missing?
that was the only one that was missing. So I was actually surprised to see, oh, it's up now. So I might still watch it. But that's my little whiny not awesome. Hey, when are we going to get this stuff right? So.
All right. Now, having spoken about the Rocks' awesome transition and offense, and the fact that they beat the Rush and that they're 2-0 and all this kind of thing, it's not all sunshine and rainbows in Toronto. In the third quarter, the Rock had a 10-2 lead and were just certainly in control. And then Saskatchewan just started chipping away, and the Rock, I mean, they didn't roll over, but they allowed Saskatchewan to get back into it. Now, preventing a team like Saskatchewan from doing that is difficult. But when you have an 8-goal lead, and then 15 minutes later you have a 1-goal lead, this is not good. Luckily for the Rock, that's as close as the Rush got. But just like it was, I guess I have them in different categories, don't I? The fact that New England did come back was awesome. The fact that Rush almost did is not. So maybe there's a bit of bias there. For the Rush, the fact that they got back into it and made it a game, from their point of view, is certainly awesome. As a Rock fan, it wasn't. So my not awesome isn't the fact that they did it. Rock allowed them to do it. So we'll try and spin it that way.
That's okay to have some fan bias, Graham. We understand. I mean, that's why we're all here. But yeah, I kind of agree with that. So my next not awesome was, holy cow, Bandits, can you stay out of the freaking box? I mean, in the first quarter, they had at least 7 minutes. By the end of the game, they had 31 minutes and 10 infractions. So a big part of the Swarm's scoring was on the power play. So kind of leading in a forgotten awesome was the fact that at one point it was 5-on-3, and the Bandits did keep the Swarm from scoring. So yay to the Bandits there. But holy cow, stay out of the box, guys. You guys were doing so good last season. What are you doing this year? They just were so undisciplined the first 3 quarters, essentially.
Yeah, I think we talked about this last year, the fact that the Bandits are sort of known for taking a lot of dumb penalties. And then we looked over the numbers, and it turns out they really haven't been that way for a couple of years. In fact, the Rock led the league in penalty minutes last year, the year before, and the year before that. So anything that I throw the Bandits' way about taking dumb penalties, I should probably just shut the hell up.
Well, but this game, they were. I mean, David Brock had a 10-minute unsportsmanlike misconduct, which we were talking, I thought any 10-minute penalty was an automatic ejection, but apparently not for misconduct. But yeah, it was.
No, there's misconducts, and then there's game misconducts, and you don't usually see misconduct penalties that aren't game misconducts, but they do happen now and again.
So yeah, 10-minute. Well, technically a 12-minute penalty, because he got a 10 and a 2 for misconduct and unsportsmanlike misconduct, was in the fourth quarter. I mean, just really, they were dumb penalties. There was roughing, there was holding. I mean, slashing. It just, granted, some of those that I'm reading are actually Georgia, but still, it was not smart playing. It was very undisciplined, and it took them out of the game right from the start. So yeah, the Swarm offense was doing a phenomenal job, but at the same time, you were running a man down for essentially half the game. So how do you expect to compete when you're running a man down? That's wearing your offense down. It's wearing your defense down more. It's wearing your goalie down more. Like, seriously. that they were just so undisciplined. So yeah, totally not awesome.
I guess that's it for my not awesome. I have one more not awesome, but we'll get to that in the next segment, I think. One more awesome that I meant to put down and I missed, and I guess we covered it last week, was the Mammoth broadcasting crew. Just want to say another shout out to Teddy and Jamie and Johnny for they just do an awesome job. And I missed. I did, like I said, I watched most of the Colorado game, but not all of it. But just to hear, and I realize that Teddy Jenner is employed by the Mammoth, and so he's probably trying to push, the Mammoth scoring is a good thing, and their opponent scoring is not quite a good thing. But it's easy to hear the passion in his voice, just the fact that he's enjoying calling the game, he's enjoying watching the game, and it's not obvious that he has any bias. He's just loving the game, and just hearing that in his voice is I think it really adds to the broadcast.
Yeah, I definitely have to echo that statement, because he would definitely show excitement for, hey, yeah, Mammoth scored. But he wasn't afraid to say, hey, the Mammoth got away with something, or the other team scored a beauty of a goal. He was very balanced. And even as a Mammoth fan, I appreciate that, because I really don't want that in-your-face bias. I want a balanced game, and I am just loving this broadcast team. So I hope they gave them all long-term contracts. I don't want a new team next year.
So there's another awesome from both of us for Teddy and the boys.
So I only had one more not awesome. Are you done?
Yep, I'm good.
So for me, it was the awesome of your awesome, opposite of your awesome. Because I got brain going again. Mammoth defense in the fourth. That's been one of my complaints over and over and over, that they just don't seem to play four quarters. And we completely saw that again Saturday night. They were really strong. They had a commanding lead, and then the lazy play starts. The silly passes that maybe they shouldn't be taking. Some of the shots were way off. Like, I don't know what was going on. If maybe there's some tipping I just couldn't see. They just kind of fell apart a little bit in the fourth. So that's my not awesome. And that's it. I think most of them we've kind of covered.
I think so. So the only remaining not awesome is my picks from week 2. And my picks, for my picks from week 2 and my picks from week 3, I'm off by a week. So, yeah, so we'll get to our predictions next. I was 0-4 again last week, so 2 straight weeks of 0-4. This is not good. Putting me at 1-9 for the year. As I noticed a little while ago, I think there's 4 games this coming week and 5 the next week. So if I go perfect in both of them, I'll be roughly the same as your average coin. You guys both went 2-2 this past week, getting different games correct, interestingly enough. So you are now at 3-7, and Tyler is at 5-5. So again, I missed all 4. Tyler got Georgia and Colorado right, and you got Toronto and Calgary right. So you guys split them. Well, so we'll see how that goes this week. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, especially as I was the only one that picked Toronto and Calgary.
Yep. So week 4, I'm going to go with Tyler's picks first, just because going with mine first didn't seem to work last week. Okay, so what do we have for Tyler? Tyler is going New England and Georgia. He is going with Georgia. Calgary, Colorado. He is going with the Mammoth on that one. Vancouver and Buffalo. Vancouver, I think they will rebound from their loss to Calgary. And Rochester and Saskatchewan, he is going for the Rush. Melissa, why don't you go next?
All right, so I am going to go with Georgia. I mean, they looked awesome, and New England hasn't quite found their groove, so it's kind of hard to pick against the Swarm at this point until they show us otherwise. With Calgary and Colorado, I'm actually going to go with Calgary, and part of that is because, as I've said, Colorado can be very inconsistent, but there's something with the Calgary-Colorado games. Calgary loves to come to Colorado and win, and they seem to do it very frequently. It seems often when Colorado does win, it's in Calgary. But even still, I expect this game is going to be a 1-goal, just like the majority of them. Probably going to go to overtime. Going to be a good game. I'm looking forward to it. As for Vancouver and Buffalo, this one was tougher because we've seen both teams not quite playing up to their potential a little bit, although Vancouver started off strong. So I'm going to go with that. And then with Rochester and Saskatchewan, I'm going to go with the Rush. Rochester didn't play good in their opening weekend. They had an off week. So I'm going to go with the Rush, but part of me is going, well, I don't know about that because they're not playing at their best. But compared to what we saw in the home opener from Rochester, I definitely can't pick them right now. So we'll go with the Rush. What about you, Graham?
All right. Well, while you were talking, I actually just changed one of my picks. So I'll get to that in a sec. So New England, Georgia, I'm going to go with you guys and go with Georgia on that. I only watched the first quarter of the Georgia-Buffalo game, but they were just really looking dominant. And I know they didn't look that way the whole game. As you said, they kind of let the Bandits back into it in the fourth, but man, did they look good in the first quarter. And they looked good last year, and they look even more exciting this year. So I'm going to go with the Swarm there. Colorado, Calgary, had to go with Colorado in this one, and I don't have. I'm not super confident in that pick because that's going to be a close game. And like you said, the Colorado Calgary games are just always fun and always very difficult to predict. Vancouver Buffalo was the one I changed. I picked Buffalo originally because I think they haven't broken out yet, and they're a good enough team that they will at some point, and they might just do it with Vancouver coming to town, Vancouver doing the traveling rather than Buffalo. And then I remembered, as you were talking, that Dane Smith will be missing this game, and it's not that they have nobody else who can score, but as we saw last year, if he's on his game, he can dominate it. If he's not on his game, he's still pretty good, but they kind of rely on him to make a lot of the plays, and when he's not on his game, they have a much higher chance of losing. So when he's not there at all, they're going to have to adjust things, and so I changed my picks. I'm going to go with Vancouver now. And Rochester, Saskatchewan. Saskatchewan looked like the Saskatchewan Rush we all know and love in the second half of the Toronto game. Not so much in the first half, but they certainly came back and made a game of it. And if they start playing that way from the beginning of the game instead of from halftime, I don't think they'll have much of a problem putting Rochester down, though Rochester looked pretty good in their second game. But I think the Rush will still take that one. So it looks as if my picks are the same as Tyler's, and given that he's way ahead of me in the standings, that may not be a bad thing for me. I guess one more question. I don't know if you noticed, Zach, I believe his name is pronounced Haywires, a rookie who played for the Mammoth this past weekend. Did you notice him at all? He was kind of added to the active roster when Grant was put on the IR, and he was a fairly high draft pick that they seem to be pretty excited about.
Yeah, he seemed to have a little bit of impact. So it's going to be interesting to watch this kid and see what he can do. If that was just a one-off game. We've certainly seen some of the rookies have a hot game and then never produce again. So, yeah, I think he's going to be one to watch. I'm glad he got the opportunity to play. But we also know my bias towards other players that he was playing in place of. So
True enough. All right, that was everything we had listed for this show. Pretty quick show, maybe because Tyler wasn't with us to explain some of his awesomes. But yeah, I guess that's it. Unless there was anything else you wanted to add, Melissa.
So my last minute awesome is I discovered when I was trying to pick my jersey today, I actually have a Swarm, Caleb Crawford. So I got to represent two teams tonight. because Kalen Crawford
Nice.
is my kind of favorite newer addition to the Mammoth. I've really been enjoying watching him play on the floor. So that was a last minute awesome that, hey, I'll get a rep 2 team. So.
Very nice. Yes, he's certainly a very exciting player to watch, and it's one thing for the Swarm to have money issues and decide to trade some of their good players for draft picks, which we will know they've done in the past. But they just let Crawford walk, and essentially the Mammoth picked him up off the scrap heap, and he gave them 83 assists or something last year. And how you let somebody like that just walk, I don't understand. So that's a big not awesome for the Swarm.
Awesome for the Mammoth, though.
Absolutely. All right, I guess that will do it. If you want to help to support the show, we don't need your money, but we do need your reviews. So go leave a review on iTunes for us, and that will rank us higher in searches and such, and that will really help. So we would appreciate that. So this has been another episode of Addicted to Lacrosse. For the absent Tyler and for Melissa, I'm Graham. Thanks for listening, and we will see you next week.